Shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all honor, all praise, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. As always, peace, blessings, and salutations to the tabernacle of David, the four elect, scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. Now, here we go again. Right on schedule. Now, they decide to release another one, another crisis, and it's right on schedule. See, we know this devil like the back of our hand now because, the blueprint to knowing how this devil operate, how he functions is scripted, in the Holy Scriptures. All right. We know that this man, he plots evil, and he carry it out because it's in the power of his hand. A lot of the things that they do is calculated. They come up with strategies, and then they just execute. But we're living in a society now where information is made public and available to us every day, and it's had a way of constantly exposing and uncovering every track that this devil lays down. And so his devices is not working on the people anymore. 2 Corinthians 2:11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we're not ignorant to his devices. So, this is what we can expect, from here on out. All right. Massive distractions, PSY ops. And speaking of, sometimes we got to be coded when we make these kind of videos, because if you actually say words like, the PSY operation, that's a conspiratory or conspiracy buzz term, that they can, get you for. So for the algorithm's sake, you got to speak in code. So that's why I say PSY op. It's double layered, to me, because, we know that PSY operations are generally used to operate on the average person's mental. It's all for mind control purposes. All right. But it's a PSY opportunity for them. Because every time these crises are actually being carried out, it gives them the opportunity to stick their flagpole into the ground fascistly. All right, or fascistically. Fascistically. I hope I pronounced that right. All right, because this devil, they say amongst themselves, never let a good crisis go to waste. So this gives them more opportunity with these type of crises to impose more authority, more totalitarian control. So with every crisis, they have what you call the Hegelian dialectic, which is problem, reaction, solution. Okay. So now that, the report then, traveled the world about this cruise that, these people all of a sudden had this outbreak. Several people contracted it. They said 3 people have died. Now they're saying that is now spreading a bit further. You just had the first human case over in the land of Israel. So you already know that they're getting ready to push this out. All right. They're already screening people. They're monitoring people, which is exactly what they want, because they want a global contact tracing biometrical surveillance infrastructure, and that's what they're building into the world. All right, so here we are once again, and all we can do is just give you the same advice that we gave you before, because this is probably going to be another rerun. All right, the scriptures say in Sirach 12 and starting at the 10th verse, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Now you can't change Esau's nature, man. He is who he is. He's the border of wickedness, the man of sin, the son of perdition. So anyway, this is a new segment dealing with this new PSY virus, you know, and this could very well, I think it could be real, you know, for the simple fact that it's a lot actually going around, you know, all over the world. You know, you got, you know, you got a case of rodents that's going around. You got the ticks that's supposed to be causing this allergy to red meat, right? And you could pretty much, you know, pinpoint, you know, the involvement, you know, the conspiracy, you know, the same people who told you we need to reduce meat consumption for the purpose of climate change or so on and so forth, right? And it's always this one guy where he can just tell you to prepare for something, and then, you know, he can throw a box of ticks out there. You know, he could throw out swarms of genetically modified mosquitoes. You know, he could do all these things and then tell you to prepare for a pandemic after announcing that the Earth's population is too large and it needs to be reduced. But he gets to roam the world with no problem. You know, I just wanted to throw that out there, man. But anyway, let's you know, I'm gonna play this little segment and then we'll get to it.
Died from hantavirus in South Africa has been admitted to a hospital after showing symptoms. There are also new reports that some of the Americans who were on board that ship plagued by an outbreak for days have returned back home. Well, now there's growing worry that they may have brought the rare and deadly virus back with them. Nick's here with the latest on this story. Nick, officials in several states are now monitoring this entire situation.
Absolutely, Mark. They're doing what they call contact tracing. They want to make sure that anyone who is on this ship is not taking that virus anywhere with them without being traced. While the CDC tries to tamp down public fears, at least 3 state health departments are keeping tabs on people who were just on board the MV Honduras. The New York Times reports that California, Georgia, and Arizona state health departments are each monitoring residents who were on that beleaguered ship. Right now, however, the 2 people in Georgia are not showing any symptoms. Those reports come after 3 people were evacuated off the ship on Wednesday, including the ship's doctor. There have been 3 confirmed hantavirus cases on board, with 5 more suspected. 3 passengers have died. The ship, with nearly 150 people still on board, is expected to dock in Spain's Canary Islands in a few days, where the remaining passengers and crew will be evaluated. In the meantime, Marky, those still on board are being asked to social distance, sanitize their hands, and isolate in their rooms as much as possible.
I still can't imagine being on board this ship for any of this. So, Nick, what's all being done to ensure the virus doesn't spread off that ship to land into other communities now?
Yeah, Marky, they want to tamp down public fears, right? As we mentioned, several state health agencies are monitoring the situation here at home, but doctors say, for the most part, people really don't have anything to worry about.
Don't that sound familiar though? Because when the C-19 first started off, you know, they were downplaying it like, you know, people didn't need to worry about it. You know, just wash your hands. You know, even that rat, Fauci, he was saying that you don't even need to wear a face mask. You know, it's pointless. You know what I'm saying? It's not even adequate to actually block out, the transmission, you know. So they downplayed it at first, and then all of a sudden they start to bring in these drastic measures. You know, now you gotta wear your face mask. Then you had to distance yourself 6 feet. Then it got to the point where they start pushing the jump shot heavy, and it was multiple pharmaceutical companies. They were all pushing, this solution, and that everybody need to get it, especially you blacks, Hispanics, and natives. Y'all need to be the first ones to get it. So we know where it went. All right, like we learned from the first time. Ain't nothing's changed. If you believe these devils now, then you deserve to get all that you got. You know, what was the saying go? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And you had a lot of sellouts. You had a lot of people that were compromised that have influence, major influence. You know, a lot of people who are considered leaders, and they all basically bought into the machine, and they were used to PSY you, PSY op you. Had you people under fear, and when you can have the masses under fear, you can control them easily. So the playbook, it never changed. All right. So let's see what they do with this moving forward. But you must know you can never trust them. But anyway, let's keep going.
Documented cases where it looked like there might be human-to-human spread were very close contacts, husband and wife, parent and child, people who lived in very close proximity to one another.
And on Tuesday, that sentiment was echoed in a statement by the CDC's acting director, who said, quote, "The risk to the American public is very low," adding that the virus is only spread by close contact with symptomatic carriers. Meanwhile, the ship's crew and passengers will be examined in Spain before being sent to their home countries. The 14 Spanish passengers on board will then quarantine in a military hospital in Madrid before being allowed to return to their communities. Other countries have said they will isolate or monitor passengers when they return home. The World Health Organization is set to give an update around 9 a.m. Eastern this morning. And of course, Marky, we will follow that and bring you the latest.
Yeah, we'll be tuned in, but praying for safety and health for all involved. Nick, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So this is what they are preparing again, apparently. All right, and whether this is geoengineered or not. When the Lord said that there would be famines and pestilences, he didn't specify that you was going to have to distinguish between engineered, lab created diseases or something that's naturally occurring. He just specifically said, this is what you should prepare for. Matthew 24 and 6, it says, "And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars." Russia, Ukraine, Iran, the U.S., Israel. All right, eventually China, Taiwan, etc. It says, "See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows." Now, there was a brother, one of the brothers in my camp, he had shared on the chat that the word Hanta, all right, we know that it goes back to a region in Korea, all right, known as the Hanta River. All right. Now, let me do this. Salaki, let me do this. This is the Hanten River in South Korea. All right. Now, during the Korean War in the early 70s, it was said that there were soldiers that were in that area that ended up contracting this particular virus from rodents. You know, there were rodents around that river, and those soldiers being in contact, they ended up contracting this particular virus. So that's why they actually associated that virus with the Hanten River and named it or called it the Hanta virus. And allegedly, you know, a lot of folks, there's a folklore interpretation about the origin or the meaning of his word, and they're saying that it actually means, amongst the Koreans, it literally means grief or lamentation or sorrow. All right, and you can actually look these things up. So it's interesting that they come up with this, knowing that we're in a time where there's going to be all these different calamities, all these different crises. All right, starvation, shortage of food supply, right? Earthquakes in diverse places, you know, basically disastrous weather patterns. All right, economic hardship, all these different forms of travail. So this virus would actually add to the adversity. It would forward the affliction, because everybody's already worried about, you know, their affordability to sustain themselves, to live. You know, people are crashing out because they can't keep up. Then, you know, the possibility of having a ration, the resources that's going to be limited to us, that's going to add to more stress, the stress of the nations. So we're definitely in the beginning of sorrows. You see, all the Lord, he said all these things, and now we're witnessing it. Even if these crises, some of these are actually manufactured. The famine, the pestilence, it could all be manufactured. But it still doesn't mean that they're not famines and pestilences. All right. So yeah, we're definitely in that time. And let me get this in Jeremiah 28. And I'm gonna get it in the AMP. And it says, the prophets who were before me, before you from ancient times, prophesied against many lands and against great kingdoms, of war and of disaster and of virulent disease. You know, whether they're you know, naturally, you know, happening in the earth, or whether, you know, it's being lab created. All right. And then it's not coincidental that the Korean University, you know, the brother had posted this. Korea, this is from an article. This was from 2 years ago, right? Korea University and Moderna collaborate to develop mRNA-based hantavirus jump shot. This is from 2 years ago. They wouldn't have made this if this wasn't going to be the next pandemic that they were going to push. And then not to mention that devil that I alluded to earlier, the one that said, you know, well, the next one is going to get their attention this time. That guy. So, you know, this is why we got to be vigilant and be vigilant, be sober, You know, because our adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. And we cannot afford to be ignorant in this time of darkness. All right, you have to simply look well to everything in this journey of ours, man. Because this devil, he's gonna pull off all stops. He ain't gonna stop. This devil gonna go out swinging, man. So we got to deal with that again, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna have sellouts, all right, or guys that have no spiritual discernment whatsoever. They're going to likely fall for it again. And these could be the same individuals who's going to try to advocate when the C-hip is mandatory, the MOT to the B. They're going to jump right on board, and they're going to tell you there's nothing to fear. Go ahead and get it. Those are the dumb dogs. Those are the you know, the dogs that love to slumber, because all they caring about is money. The hirelings that care nothing for the sheep. They see the devil approaching, but they saying, well, I'll only care about my money. I don't need you don't need to concern yourself with this devil right now. Don't worry about what this devil is doing. We just need to focus on building, you know, and setting up our communities and this, that, and the third. Community work. You better get away from them, because they're definitely not preparing you for what's ahead. And that's why we in the spirit of rebuking all false prophets. And we have to. It's nothing personal. So, yeah, man. And let me get this in get this in Psalm 64 and verse 1. It says, hear my voice, O power. And this is in the AMP, by the way. It says, in my complaint, guard my life from the terror of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel and conspiracy of the ungodly. So how could you call yourself being a follower of the scriptures? You know, you read the Bible and you study it and you follow it and you teach it, and knowing the times that we're in and all these devices that this devil keeps throwing at us, how could you dismiss everything using the word conspiracy or conspiracy theory? If you're using words like conspiracy theory in this day and age, seeing what's coming upon us, then you're definitely a shill. You're an agent. All right. You're compromised. You're a sellout, and you're an agent. All right, because the scriptures is telling you exactly what it is. It's clearly a conspiracy. It says, from the scheming of those who do wrong. You know, basically his devices. You know, his evil plans. You don't think that this was another one planned out? Now somebody, let me go back here. Somebody made this post on X a few years ago. Look at the name of their handle, their avatar, soothsayer. So this insider made this post and said, "Hey, yeah, they ended the crown, you know, because that's the Latin in Latin in the Roman Empire, you were crowned with a wreath, and they called it the corona. All right, that ended in 2023 when they said that, yeah, it's a done deal, it's over, it's officially over, it's a wrap. I think it might have been a little earlier than that, but you know, I could be wrong. It was probably 2023. But then he made for 2026. This was back in October of 2022. The Hunter virus. So, hey man, a lot of these things are orchestrated. It says the last hantavirus outbreak in America was in 1933. Exactly 33 years ago. You just can't make this shit up. So it's just, you could just joke about what these devils are doing in the form of a meme. And it's like people are like desensitized to it. Because this is all this devil does. His enchantment don't work no more. People can figure these devils out pretty easily. And that's part of why this devil is gonna, you know, he's gonna operate at the rate that he has. Because like it says in Revelation 12:12, the devil shall come down having great wrath, knowing that he have but a short time. 33, you couldn't be more obvious, man. So, you know, just be alert, man. You know, and you know, take the precautions. The scriptures say that the prudent foreseeth the evil and hideth themselves, but the simple look on and are punished. All right, the wise foreseeth the evil, you know what I'm saying, and know what to do. All right, and we know not to ever trust this man. All right, it was at the end of Sirach 12. It says that basically when adversity comes upon you, like in the form of a crisis, he'll be there first and pretend to help you. Because he's always got some diabolical solution, which is usually a weapon. All right, but he presents it as if it's an actual solution to heal or restore you. Sirach 12. And I'll read verse 10 and 11, and then I'm going to jump down. It says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, take good heed, yet take good heed, and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. All right? You can try to wipe and see if the rust will actually leave, but the rust is still there. You can't change him. All right, he's a serpent, man. Going back to the garden, he told Eve, hey, don't worry about it, you're not gonna die, eat of that tree. And after that, death reigned supreme, because she listened. So he can tell you, yeah, and don't worry about it. You know, he can have his medium, all right, aka his mainstream media outlets. You know, because they're there to literally put spells on you every day. You know, running these operations. All right, what they call it, Operation Mockingbird, and it's all a script that all these news prompters read from. So, jumping down, it says, verse 16, it says, the enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. So that's why he needs all the opportunity that he can take, especially with these crises. Never let a good crisis go to waste. If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee. You know, he pretend to help you with these solutions. You know, get these the jump shots. You get immune. You know, take these safety precautions. But yet he's actually trying to usurp total control over you. Complete totalitarianism. This is going to help further this agenda to roll out this infrastructure, man. This prison world. And the word undermine, it says to undermine means to weaken, damage, or erode something gradually, insidiously, or by removing underlying support. You know, because like the last time this type of crisis happened, there was a major wealth transfer. You know, from the middle and poor class to the super rich, and it made them more and more rich. And they saw exactly what that did, and it was an opportunity. All right, these rich corporate billionaires and trillionaires, they're the only ones stem to gain from all this. The wars, the pestilence, okay? All these different things, man. So this devil, he's gonna continue to be exposed, but he's gonna still come down with that wrath. So we got to be on point, man. Ephesians 6. All right. Put on the whole armor of the Most High, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, and spiritual wickedness in high places. So we already know what time it is. We done been here before. Have faith. All right. Don't give in. Don't be coerced. All right. So, Lord willing, y'all were edified, but I had to chime in on it. All right. And here we are once again. So these people, they really finna crash out, because they got all these different, vices, that they have to, deal with. Shortage of food, water and energy rationing. People, whole cities going without water because of data centers. Can't even flush their toilets. Can't even have running water. So yeah, it's finna be up, and now they gotta worry about another a scare. And this is all to keep them distracted, of course. America got their ass kicked over there in the Persian Gulf, and now they're being forced to basically back out, because they don't really have an offense over there anymore, because they got wiped out. So it's a lot going on, man. But we got to stay upon our watch. That's all we can really do. All right, but anyway, I hope y'all were edified. I'm going to give all honor, praise, and glory to y'all by Shemi Shai. And to the next one, Shalom.